October 12th, 2007, a stretched limousine pulls up in front of the home of one young girl, Sophie Jane Dar. She's about to get into a limousine for the first time, wearing a purple dress, which her mother said she looked like a princess. She's with her mom and her dad and her brother, her aunts, her grandparents. And as they're pulling away in the limousine, they pour her sparkling cider. They bestow her with these wonderful gifts. They play her favorite songs, and they're on their way to dinner at the Rainforest Cafe. During dinner, there's a simulated thunderstorm, there's elephants and giraffes that come to life, and every detail is covered. Her favorite foods, her special diet, and all this is happening just before she's taken off in the limousine to see her favorite singer, Kelly Clarkson. Now, she's running a little late because she's suffering from migraines this day. And as she walks into the venue, Kelly Clarkson is in the middle of a song, but she sees Sophie and her mother. She looks out in their direction and points and waves. Now, the reason that Kelly knows that Sophie is there is because several months prior, we reached out to Kelly and her team, and we said, this young girl who's a raving fan has been battling brain cancer for the past year. She's been in and out of surgeries, and she's fighting for her life. And she wants to come see your show. Kelly was so excited. Sophie had the time of her life as she sang, and she witnessed Kelly perform to the audience, and it was a night to remember. For the last 12 years, I've been privileged to work with the Front Row Foundation, a charity that helps children and adults who have a life-threatening illness to have a front row experience at the event of their dreams. And the mission is also to help these individuals to live every day in the front row, no matter how many days they have. At the core of this is the question of how do we consciously create, experience, and celebrate the meaningful moments of life. Now, I'm often asked, how did this idea come to be? It was actually in 2005, a summer concert. It was my birthday. I was sitting in a venue not unlike this. I was in the very back, and I was looking down at my favorite singer, Jason Mraz, who was performing and singing, and I noticed that there were some people near the front row, and they looked like they wanted to be nowhere other than right there. They were singing and dancing, having the time of their life. As I left the venue that day, I thought to myself how we can all choose whether or not we want to live life in the front row. See, at that venue, there were different types of people having different types of experiences. Same moment in time, drastically different experience for the people in the room. I started thinking about my own life, and that when I got to the end, knowing that I didn't want to regret looking back, saying, I missed my moments. I missed my life. I was asleep the whole way. I sat and I didn't engage and I didn't stand up and express myself. I thought about some of my greatest moments in life, and they were front row moments. They were moments where I had stepped up with courage and I transformed as a result of it. And with that knowledge of my greatest fear and my greatest love, I thought, how can I help individuals who are fighting for their life to have the best day ever, and then to teach them the life skills on how to make every day the best day possible. So we created these front row events every month and every year. We raised millions of dollars, and as our team learned more and more about how to make these moments amazing, we learned that we could expand a moment. From a single day, we found out that it really wasn't about the day itself. It was about the minute that we told the recipient that they were going to an event, That was the minute their lives were changing. It was hope. See, hope brings the power of a future possibility, and it brings it into this moment so that we can do something about it right now. I think about one of our recipients, Thomas, who was in a wheelchair, and he wanted to go see a rugby match. And every day in physical therapy, leading up to the event, he worked so hard because what his desire was to stand for the national anthem at his event. The power of hope bringing the future into the present moment so that we can do something about it. Our team learned about the power of celebration and how it wasn't just about the day, it was about reliving the day over and over and over again. I witnessed this with one of our recipients, Mike, who was 16 years old, and he went to an event, and shortly afterwards, he was in the hospital fighting for his life, hooked up to every tube and everything imaginable to keep him alive. And Mike was sitting there in his bed, and he was flipping through his photo album of his front row experience. I've heard the stories of families that have relived their day by watching the videos that we create for every recipient. And the power of celebration is for each of us to be able to look back in our lives and pull from those great moments and bring it into the here and the now, which often heals us, inspires us, and moves us forward through our moments. We started to ask ourselves, how could we expand the moment beyond the day and all of what was leading up to it and all of what was after it? But how could we actually apply the power of living life in the front row, of being moment makers in every day of our lives? And we started to notice things that were happening in everyday situations, things that we would call front row moments. One of which occurred when my 4-year-old son told me he wanted to try rock climbing. Now, at 4, I thought maybe he's too young. I actually tried to encourage him to do something else, but he was persistent. Any of you know a 4-year-old who's really persistent? And finally, I said, all right, buddy, let's give it a shot. And there he was at the base of the rock wall. And the coach was getting him put into his harness, and I was still thinking, there's no way he's going to make it up this wall. He was just too young. That wall was just too difficult. But as my son stood there at the base, and he put one hand on the wall, and another, and then his foot, he flew up that wall. I stood there in amazement as my son scurried to almost the top, but the wall got progressively more difficult. And as he was almost at the top, he turned around and he looked down at me and he said, Papa, I can't. I thought, what do I do in that moment? What's a great dad do in this moment? I thought, I know. It's okay, buddy. You tried. Nailed it. And right in that moment, the other guy who's there with me, the coach, the supervisor of the wall, he looks at me and he says, hey, I think your boy can do it. And he looks up at my son and he said, hey, little man, try again. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's really good. My son, with the newfound hope given to him by the man working at the rock wall, not his father, who happens to be a motivational speaker. With this new hope and this new courage of the man who is witnessing possibility of the moment, grabs a hold of the wall, and he makes it to the top. Descends down, stands before me, this giant smile on his face. I high-five him. I say, buddy, I'm so proud of you. That was so amazing. And we celebrated the moment. Now, interestingly, I can look back and see that as being a front row moment. That is a moment of living our lives in the front row. See, our team over a decade has decided that there are really 4 qualities that make up a front row moment. Those qualities, number one, would be presence. When you're fully present to an experience, when you're really here, you're nowhere else, but you're in the moment. Number two is a moment of courage, sometime when we step up into the front row of life. And it's not always comfortable there. It's not always easy there. But when we step up and we get close to something that makes us come alive as individuals. Third is a sense of community. That oftentimes in moments like that, there's others involved. Sometimes in spirit, and sometimes because they're there with us. And the fourth being that of transformation, something that changes us. Something where we, because of that moment, walk away a different person. And that man working the rock will have this opportunity to be a moment maker. To be in the front row of my son's life, lifting him up. And oftentimes in life, the best fans get the best show. Oftentimes in life, yes, it's good to play the game. Yes, it's good to be on the wall. Yes, it's good to be on the stage. But sometimes it's good to be in the front row, cheering someone on, lifting someone up, shining the light. I don't know what effect that man had on my son's life that day when he reached the top of the wall. But I can tell you that 4 years later, right now, my son is on a competitive climbing team in Austin, Texas. All thanks to me. See, living life in the front row is about consciously choosing to create, to experience, to celebrate the meaningful moments of life. Living life in the front row is about stepping up and getting close to the people, places, and passions that make us come alive. Living life in the front row is about turning our moments into memories. It's turning now into wow. Living life in the front row is not always easy. Getting to the front row of a big concert, being in the front row of a big concert, I can think of more comfortable places to be, but oftentimes meaning is messy. Having great meaning in our lives is messy. I tell my wife all the time, when we go on vacation as a family, I don't really think of it as vacation. I think of it as an adventure. An adventure is not always convenient, and neither is stepping up and getting into life. But living life in the front row can be full of meaning for all of us. And we can do it every single day in all of the moments of our life. If I take you back to that moment where Sophie is watching Kelly Clarkson, and Kelly's giving her final performance, and Sophie thinks the night is over, but we've got something else in store. See, we were taking Sophie backstage to meet Kelly Clarkson. Now, Sophie thought it was all done, so she had fallen asleep in her mother's arms, and we took her backstage, and a few moments later, Kelly walks into the room, and Sophie knows this and lights up. And in that moment, we take a picture of Sophie and Kelly locking eyes. They proceed to hang out and talk for a while. That picture of the two of them together hangs next to my desk every day to remind me of why we do what we do. And there's a reason that photograph and that moment is so very important. Because just 2 months later, after that picture was taken, Sophie took her final breaths. And two individuals from our team, founding members of the Front Row Foundation, John and Mara Berghoff, were escorts for her that day. They were standing there in that moment for Kelly, and they also chose to show up to the funeral for Sophie. John told me later that when he walked up to the casket where Sophie lay, peacefully in a beautiful white dress, he said, "John, I looked down and I saw her VIP Kelly Clarkson badge with her." Sophie's mom, Lauren, told us later that she said, "You guys gave our family one of the greatest gifts ever, the power of a moment we could cherish forever." She said, "John, I really learned how to live life by watching Sophie. She taught me how to live in the moment, how to celebrate every day, because we don't know how many we have. There's so much that we can all learn about living life from people who are fighting for it. And as you move forward into your next moments today, I ask you, I invite you, I encourage you to consciously create, to experience, and to celebrate the meaningful moments in life for yourself and for others. Thank you so much, everybody.